the wilderness was a place where the world seemed to forget you. Jason had always been drawn to it, the untamed forests, the jagged cliffs, the smell of pine and earth after rain. For years, he had left the city behind, trading concrete chaos for the solitude of nature. This trip was no exception. Backpack loaded with essentials, a knife strapped to his belt, and a journal tucked away, he wandered deeper into the forest than he ever had before. The silence was soothing, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant call of a hawk. He had just started ascending a narrow, rocky trail when a piercing scream tore through the stillness. Jason froze, every sense on high alert. The scream had been short but sharp, carrying panic and desperation. Without a second thought, he sprinted toward the sound, weaving through dense trees, over roots and rocks, until he reached a small clearing. There, lying on the ground, was a young woman convulsing violently. Beside her, a snake slithered away into the underbrush. Its fangs had sunk deep into her ankle, and the venom was already taking hold. Her pale face twisted in pain, and her wide eyes were filled with terror. Jason's survival instincts kicked in immediately. "Stay with me." "Stay still," he shouted, though his voice was calmer than he felt. He ripped a strip of his shirt and tied it tightly above her bite, slowing the venom's spread. He then took a deep breath, scanning the area for a stick to use as a splint. The woman's trembling hand clawed at the ground. It hurts so much," she gasped, her voice weak. Jason knelt beside her, keeping his voice steady. "I know it does. But I'm here now. You're going to be okay." Time seemed to slow as he worked. He cleaned the wound with water from his canteen, applied pressure, and whispered instructions to keep her conscious. He checked her pulse repeatedly, noting the rapid rise and fall. She groaned but didn't pass out, a good sign. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she managed a shuddering breath. I thought I was going to die," she whispered, her lips trembling. Jason gave a small nod, trying to reassure her without revealing the worry that gnawed at him. "You're stronger than you think. The snake just underestimated you." She tried to sit up, but Jason gently pushed her back. No. Rest. You're not ready yet. We need to get you somewhere safe." As he helped her stand, he noticed something strange. Despite the grime, scratches, and terror, her clothes were of fine quality, delicate fabric, carefully tailored. Her posture, even in pain, suggested refinement, poise, and a life far removed from the wilderness. Curiosity got the better of him. "You're not from around here, are you?" he asked, keeping his tone casual. She hesitated, as if weighing her words. Finally, she said, "No. I'm not. My name is Isabella. I ran away from everything." Jason raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Everything?" She looked down at the forest floor, twisting her fingers nervously. "My family, my life, it's complicated. I wanted to escape. I didn't expect this," she admitted, gesturing weakly at her bitten ankle. Jason let out a low whistle. "You ran into the wilderness, and the wilderness nearly ran you over. Bold move." A weak laugh escaped her lips. "Apparently, I also ran into the right person," she said, her voice soft but sincere. Jason's expression softened. "Lucky for you, I've had some experience with this kind of thing. Not snakes, exactly, but survival. Let's get you to my camp. You'll be safe there." The walk to his camp was slow. Jason kept an arm around her for support, and every so often, he glanced at her pale face and worried eyes. She was clearly exhausted, and her ankle throbbed with pain. But there was something else, something in her gaze that wasn't fear. There was curiosity, and maybe even a glimmer of trust. Once at his small, rugged camp, Jason helped her sit by the fire. He stripped clean cloth from his backpack and created a makeshift bandage around her ankle. He gave her water, and she drank carefully, still trembling. "You should eat something," he said, offering a small pack of trail rations. She shook her head. "I can't. I'm not hungry. I need to rest." Jason nodded. He had learned long ago not to push people too hard, especially when they were vulnerable. Instead, he built a small fire, the flames crackling and giving warmth to both their bodies and the tense silence that hung in the air. Minutes passed. Then, almost hesitantly, she looked up at him. "Jason, why did you help me?" He shrugged, trying to appear casual. Because I couldn't just leave you there. And besides, someone had to. Lucky for you, it was me. She smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. You don't understand. You don't know what it's like to be me. Jason studied her, realizing that beneath the fear and exhaustion, she carried the weight of a life he could barely imagine. Try me, he said quietly, his tone gentle but firm. Her voice shook as she revealed the truth. I'm the heiress to a fortune. Millions, properties, everything, but I wanted freedom. I ran away, and now I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Jason stared at her, taking in her words. The revelation was staggering. Wealth, power, privilege, he had never cared for any of it, and here was someone who had everything yet had chosen the wilderness over comfort. Seems like you ran into a lot more than just a snake, he said dryly, but there was no judgment in his voice, only curiosity. She laughed softly, a sound that was surprisingly warm amidst the cold forest. Apparently, I did. And apparently, I also ran into the right men. Jason couldn't help but smile at that. There was something magnetic about her, something that drew him in despite himself. Danger had brought them together, but now curiosity, and perhaps fate, was ensuring they would not be easily separated. As the fire crackled, the forest around them seemed to shrink, enclosing them in a world that existed solely for this moment. Jason had saved her from death, but now he realized he had also stumbled into a story far bigger than himself, one that involved trust, courage, and a bond neither of them could yet fully understand. Little did they know, this encounter was only the beginning. The wilderness had tested them, and they had survived. But the challenges, and the discoveries, lying ahead were far greater than a snake bite, and both Jason and Isabella would soon learn that true danger and true connection often walk hand in hand. The wilderness had a way of stripping away pretenses. By the second day, Isabella had begun to recover, her strength slowly returning under Jason's careful attention. He had built a small shelter from fallen branches and tarps, and a fire crackled steadily, warding off the chill of the early morning. Though she tried to hide it, Isabella was grateful, not just for saving her life, but for the sense of peace she felt here, far from the demands of wealth, power, and expectations. I can't believe how strong you are, she admitted one morning, wincing slightly as she adjusted the bandage around her ankle. I thought I was prepared for the wilderness, but clearly, I was wrong. Jason grinned. Most people are. The forest doesn't care about preparation, it cares about instinct. She laughed softly, the sound bright in the quiet woods. Instinct, huh? I guess my instinct was running into trouble. He shook his head, smiling. More like running into me. And that, ironically, may have saved you. For the next few days, they fell into a rhythm. Jason taught her how to read the signs of the forest, the calls of birds, the tracks of animals, the rustle of leaves that could signal danger. Isabella listened intently, soaking up each lesson with surprising enthusiasm. She stumbled often, fell into shallow streams, or misjudged the stability of a log, but Jason was patient, always ready to catch her or lend a hand. At night, sitting by the fire, she would ask questions about his life. About how he came to live in the wilderness, what motivated him to leave the city behind, and what he thought about the world beyond the trees. Jason, in turn, asked her questions, careful, gentle ones about her family, her wealth, and the life she had left behind. He sensed her conflict, the yearning for freedom and the pull of her responsibilities. I feel trapped sometimes, she confessed one evening, staring into the fire. All this money, all these people depending on me, but no one really knows me. No one really sees me. Jason studied her, noting the vulnerability she rarely let anyone witness. Maybe it's not about people seeing you, he said softly. Maybe it's about finding someone who chooses to stay, even when they see everything. The real you. She looked up, her eyes meeting his, and for the first time, she felt seen, not as an heiress, not as a wealthy socialite, but as Isabella. Just Isabella. Their days together were peaceful, but the world beyond the forest was never far away. News of Isabella's disappearance had already reached her family. Her inheritance, a fortune that included millions, properties, and a global empire, was significant enough to draw attention. Lawyers, private investigators, and family members had begun combing the wilderness, searching for her. One afternoon, as Jason and Isabella trekked along a narrow trail near a cliff, the distant hum of an engine reached their ears. At first, Jason thought it was wildlife, but the sound grew louder, more mechanical. He crouched behind a large boulder, Signaling Isabella to do the same. Through the trees, they saw 3 black SUVs approaching, men in suits stepping out with determination in their eyes. Jason's protective instincts flared. "They're here for you," he said quietly. "Stay calm, stay behind me." Isabella's eyes widened. "They want to take me back." Jason nodded. "I think so. But you don't have to go unless you want to." The men approached, one stepping forward with a confident smile. "Isabella, your family is worried sick. You need to come back with us." She shook her head, her resolve unwavering. "No. I'm not going back. Not yet. Not until I figure out who I am without all this." Jason stepped slightly forward, his presence a barrier between her and the men. "She's not going anywhere," he said firmly. The men exchanged glances, realizing their authority carried little weight here. Isabella's choice was clear, and Jason's unwavering support made it impossible for them to pressure her further. Reluctantly, they retreated, leaving the forest to its quiet dominance once more. That night, as they sat by the fire, Isabella's hand brushed against Jason's. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. "Thank you," she whispered. "For everything." Jason looked at her, the firelight dancing in his eyes. "You don't need thanks. Just stay with me. That's enough." Days turned into weeks. Isabella's ankle healed, and her strength returned, but her bond with Jason had deepened in ways neither of them could deny. They shared stories, laughter, and quiet moments of reflection. The wilderness, which had once been a place of solitude for Jason, had become a place of connection, a space where both of them could be free, without the weight of their past lives pressing down. One evening, under a canopy of stars, Isabella turned to Jason. "I don't want to go back," she said softly, her voice firm. "I've realized something. I don't need the fortune. I don't need the empire. I need this, us. This life. This freedom." Jason felt a surge of emotion, one he rarely allowed himself to acknowledge. "You're sure?" he asked, his voice low but steady. She nodded. "More sure than I've ever been about anything in my life." Jason smiled, a mixture of relief and happiness washing over him. "Then you're not leaving. Not unless you want to." And she didn't. Over the following weeks, they continued to explore the wilderness together, learning from each other and growing stronger as a team. Jason taught Isabella how to hunt, forage, and navigate the wild, while she brought a sense of joy and wonder to his world that he hadn't realized was missing. Together, they were unstoppable, a perfect balance of strength, courage, and trust. Their story, born from a moment of danger and survival, had transformed into something far greater. It was a story of choice, of courage, and of love that defied circumstance. Isabella had discovered that true freedom wasn't about wealth or power, it was about finding someone who would stand by your side through life's dangers and uncertainties. And Jason had discovered that sometimes, fate had a way of bringing the right person into your life when you least expected it. As the fire burned low and the stars shimmered above, Isabella leaned her head on Jason's shoulder. The wilderness was quiet again, but this time, it was different. It was a place of safety, of belonging, and of a love that neither fortune nor family could dictate. Together, they had survived danger, discovered themselves, and built a bond that would endure far beyond the forest. For Jason and Isabella, the wilderness was no longer just a place of solitude, it was a place of new beginnings, where love and freedom could coexist, and where the heiress and the survivalist had found a life worth fighting for.